Okay, good evening. It's 6:03 on Tuesday, the 12th of March, 2024. This is a meeting of the Norwalk Conservation Commission and Inland Wetland Agency. Alexis, could we have roll call, please?
Yes. So Steve Quackey,
Here.
Heather Breslin,
Here.
Cheryl Brown,
Here.
and Amy Richardson.
Here.
Awesome. All right, so you do have 4, so you have a quorum.
Fantastic.
Oh, and
Yep, it looks like, yep. So if
Halloween code just arrived.
but Heather and Cheryl and Ed, are you good for the duration tonight? Hopefully we won't go too long, but
Yes.
Amy was feeling a little under the weather, and I promised her we could release her if we had 4 commissioners.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so Ms. Richardson, you are welcome to stay on, but you are also welcome to go relax.
Thanks, Steve. I'll stay on for a bit and listen in. It'll be good, and then potentially I'll drop out later. But for now, I'll be on. I'm on board.
Okay, great. And I do believe Alexis remind me, she can only vote on motions that for
So any of these?
Yeah, I'm all set. Don't worry about me, guys. I am aware of what I'm able to vote on.
Okay,
right.
I keep tallies. I'm good.
Okay.
Yep.
So
So
that's also for my education too, but okay.
So since you don't have a full contingent of regular members, Ms. Richardson would be considered a regular member. And soccer players. So she can comment if she wants to.
Shall we get started?
Yes. Okay. You are muted still, Steve.
Oh, sorry. Is anyone online who wants to make public comment not about anything that's on the agenda tonight?
Attendees, I know, let's see, Miss Grace Kirsch is here for bond release, and Sarah, I have moved you over to panelist, I believe. And if anyone else remaining would like to talk on any conservation matters that are not regarding any pending applications on the agenda, use the raise your hand feature to indicate you'd like to speak. So no, I don't think that you do, Steve.
Okay, great. So moving forward with discussion and or decision S23-631, 207 West Rocks Road. I believe you sent a draft resolution in your email.
I did, but I would recommend that you table. The applicant isn't here anyway, and in reviewing our files, I realized that the property owner never actually paid his application filing fee.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
So I sent him an email letting him know. And so I would not make a decision in advance of that and table to the March 26th meeting.
So be it. All right. Then let's move on to S24-632, 35 Weather Bell Drive. And in case anybody's wondering, everybody knows what bell weather is, but I can't seem to figure out what weather bell means. But anyway.
Agreed. Mr. Weatherbell has he requested that he would try to make it to tonight's meeting, but that maybe his matter could go a little bit later.
So
I
maybe
don't
we,
see him currently. So if maybe you want to shuffle the agenda and see if he appears by the time you get to the end of your discussion and decision.
okay.
items.
To make it official then, should I just move to amend the agenda to push S24-632 to the end of discussion and or decision? The second?
Sure.
That was Cheryl or
Yes, second.
That was
Oh.
Breslin.
Breslin? Any discussion? All in favor? All right, great. So that moves us on to S24-633, 189 Perry Avenue.
All right, and so this application was received at your last meeting, and you had a short discussion with Mr. Carter, who is the property owner, and he is present tonight. And as I think stated at the last meeting and in this email discussion with Mr. Carter, we still need some kind of site plan that shows the location of the dry wells. I believe there are 2 dry wells and associated drainage system, and then also the expansion of the driveway shown on a map or site plan. Date. Hold on one second. I get my screen. Sorry, it's very slow to refresh here. And so this is a sketch that was sent a few minutes ago. So Mr. Carter, if you want to talk more about your activities,
Yeah, first
and then I
of
can
all,
circle back.
Alexis, Alexis, and thank you. First of all, my construction guy put this together. Now this looks like something from maybe a kindergarten or a first grader. As you can see, it's pretty awful. But Ricardo is not an artist. My wife actually is a fine artist. And if you'd like us to redo this, I'd be happy to. But the point I would like to make this evening is two points. When we bought this house, which is 120 years old or something like that, we had one dry well which did not work at all, and so that was the dry well coming out on the right side, and that was redug and gone down 2 foot more and made twice as large. And then we put in a second dry well, which was not required, but I just did that because I'm a trout fisherman. I fish the stream every day I'm there, and I'm taking care of the river as best I can. So I put in a second dry well at a lot of expense. And the only reason, and I wanted to address one more point in the meeting, is the only reason I did not stop the work as I might have to get a permit was because I was concerned with mold, which would start to be growing in my house, about 16 inches of water in the bottom of my house. And if I stopped the work and I stopped the dry well building and the piping and so forth, I would have had mold. I had it in one other house where I had to destroy one whole wall of my house where I had mold, a black mold, what I couldn't get rid of for 6 months. I had to take out a wall of my house in my old house in Saddle River, New Jersey. So that was what I was very concerned about. It's not a matter of wanting to continue the job in a spiteful way or anything like that. It's just I was very afraid of mold forming if I stopped the job. So I had no choice but to continue the job until you had the time to come over and look at what we did thus far. So that's all I have to say tonight. I don't know what more I can do other than get my wife, who's a famous artist, to make a really good drawing for you. But I don't think there's any more I can do.
So I'd sent you a couple of base maps, GIS generated base maps that have the house and the driveway.
Yeah, yeah,
river
and
the
I
wall.
asked. You're right, Alexis. I asked Ricardo to please use those maps. Of course, he didn't. He's a construction guy. He doesn't know anything about this stuff, and he hardly speaks English. So, what I will do is get those base maps. I will have my wife go into our art studio, and I will make something that's beautiful for you, because I'm not satisfied with this either. I was embarrassed that he sent it this afternoon, and I apologize. But I will get something for you that looks really nice.
Mr. Carter, are you by chance related to a civil engineer?
Me? No.
Yeah. That would be
No.
better than we're not looking for pretty, really. We're trying to gauge possible effects on the water course. And actually, hold on one second. So let's keep all the, no one is accusing you of doing anything that is like not environmental or harsh, right, or I would have probably done the exact same thing that you did. But what we need in order to have this sort of, what is the word, memorialized and analyzed by professionals who know this stuff, we need kind of a professional drawing, and maybe a professional who can comment on the effects that having these dry wells right next to the water course may or may not have. And as long as we have something that is from a reputable, trained professional that shows us what's going on and what is not wrong with what's going on right now, ideally, then it makes it very easy for us to make all of this, go away. So I think that's really what we're trying to angle after. If you can help us.
So you'd like me to hire? Let me see if I understand this, because I own a major service corporation in America, and I'm a pretty intelligent guy. I know what I'm doing most of the time. So you want me to hire a professional person who can analyze the situation and submit a professional report to you, yep, saying that those two dry wells are efficient and effective in keeping any debris away from the river?
It's not so much debris. It's mostly water. But yeah, yes, essentially. Okay. And to just have everything written down and to scale, and have it all spelled out. And as long as we've got it spelled out in front of us, and the professional tells us, look, there's no problem, then we don't have a problem. So that's really what it's going to take.
I see. Okay.
So the commission needs to.
Hold on, Alexis, go ahead. Alexis, if you don't mind, Mr. Carter, we're going to let Alexis talk, and then we're going to let her finish too.
Sure, go right ahead.
So the commission needs to know the size of the dry wells, which I think you've now given us with what you gave today, but their size relative to the adjacent river and riverbank. We also want to make sure that they're on your property. So that's all of that locational information would be on a map. So we just kind of need all those components on one map.
Yeah. To assure you, it is on my property. I'm sure of it, because when the property drops down below that little wall, that little piece of property is owned by the fellow on the other side.
Yes.
And he never lets me forget about it, by the way. But so everything on my driveway side is mine, and then when it drops down, it's his little piece of property.
And so, Mr. Carter, the point that Alexis is making is, it's all well and good, we believe you, but it needs to be on paper by a professional. And then everybody in the future will also believe us. They don't have to be on these calls to hear you say, I vouch for this. Does that make sense?
But I have a question for you then. Now we're talking about two professionals. We're talking about someone who is person who's going to make a new chart of the property and then a person who's going to talk about the water problem.
It
Right?
might be the same. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Alexis. We probably can get a local engineering firm to cover both those bases, I assume.
I think so, yes. Because you have a survey of your property already, so they can use that as a base map.
Okay. All right. So it's okay. So it's an engineering firm that has not an appraisal firm. It's an engineering firm,
Yes.
right?
They'll be able to check all the boxes for us and make it
Okay.
real crystal clear that everything's kosher and we're off to the races. And you can go back to fishing instead of meeting us at 6 o'clock every Tuesday night, every other Tuesday night.
Okay. Let's see. So I don't know if I have any other questions for you. Okay. I have had an ongoing, I don't know if this is appropriate. It's probably not appropriate, but I'm saying it anyway. I've had an ongoing battle with the guy across the way because he continues to make the river filthy with all of the runoff from his roof. He doesn't have any filters or anything I have on my house. He has straight pipes that go right down into the river off of his roof. And
So-
he's a culprit. But he just sold that house to a new fellow, and there's a real problem, and he's creating a problem for the river, which I don't like.
So Alexis, there's a couple avenues probably to go down, or would you? I bet you. So I'll say this: we do not have drones circling Norwalk 24/7, watching what people do. Things get reported to us, and then, well, not us, I should say, to Alexis's office, and Alexis's office looks in, and
Right.
we go from there. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, so existing roof leaders are existing, and we would not require a change to those. If the property were to make changes to their house or property, then we would potentially require different management of their stormwater.
Okay. Well, I'll mind my own business then. Okay.
Or you
Okay.
could refer whichever
Well-
engineer firm you hire to satisfy us. You can refer them over to your neighbor and be like, "Hey, this wouldn't be that expensive, and
I think
it'd
so.
be good for the river."
I think so. Oh, look who's here. Okay. What a cute guy. Okay. Well,
Sorry
thank
about
you
that.
very
All right.
much. Thank you. And I'll do my best to get the right person.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Night.
Good night.
Right. Night.
Sorry, everybody. I don't have a lock on my door, so I can't even keep them out. Okay. Let's see. That was Carter. Oh, and I see Mr. Pasquarella's here. For the sake of his time, can I amend? Mike, you still here? Mike? Yep.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm still here, and I'm more than willing to yield to everybody who got on before me, and I can actually probably use the time to run downstairs and grab a bite to eat. So if you want to move me to the end, I would be more than willing to do that
Okay. We got you after Cranberry Road. So
whenever. Okay.
go grab something to eat. I'm a happier person after I eat anyway, so I recommend the same for everyone.
Oh, it's been a mentally draining day today, so I could use a little bit. So if I'm not here, just scream.
Okay, we'll talk to you in a few then.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Heather, you didn't have to nod your head so emphatically.
It wasn't even on purpose. It
Right.
just happened.
Thanks. S24-634 10 Norden Place.
Okay, so this application was received at your last meeting. It is an application for a 3-lot subdivision of land. The mother lot, if you will, does contain a little portion of a wetland. The 2 proposed lots would not contain any wetlands or water courses. At the last meeting, those present did not seem to have any major concerns, and staff did draft a resolution to approve with conditions. Then that is included in your commissioner packet and is contained within a staff report.
Do any commissioners have any questions about the draft memorandum dated March 7th? Hearing none, I'll move to approve it as written for S23-634 for Ted Norton Place. Now,
I'll
second.
second that.
Thanks, Cheryl. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
aye, aye. Heather? Aye. Great. Unanimous.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Sorry.
Yep. Thanks, Liz.
Okay, so that was 4-0, and I assume 1 abstaining with Ms.
Oh,
Everett.
Sorry, Amy.
That's all right,
Um,
everyone. Don't worry.
So moving on to S24-635, 280 Main Avenue.
Okay, so this application was also received at your last meeting. At that meeting, there was a discussion regarding the landscaping plan and a requested revision to use native to Connecticut plants. That revision was submitted and is posted on your webpage. The applicant and representative are here tonight, but as the last one, there is a draft resolution to approve in the staff memo that went out in your packets. That's it for me.
Did anyone get a chance to review the revised landscaping plan that was uploaded a week ago?
I can
That's
share it if
Probably no. So
necessary.
we're all looking at it right now, I'm sure. I love a good Carl Forrester. Got a few of those in my yard. Mr. Bruton, right? You're the landscape architect?
I'm a civil engineer, but BL Companies was the landscape architect on the project.
One tip that I give my developer clients and design team clients is to add a note to your plant schedule to say if you are going to substitute plants that they be non-invasive / adaptive, native, whatever. It's just a nice general note because landscaping companies have a tendency to swap out on the fly.
Yeah, so Commissioner, definitely well received comment. If you actually go to our sheet LL1 below our chart, we do have a note that says all substitutions must receive approval from the landscape architect prior to delivery.
I see.
Because we've gotten caught with that before
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, point well taken. And yeah, I think the big one that we swapped out from the prior plan to this one was the Zelkova, which is now the Princeton American Elm. So we swapped that one out at per our discussion, whatever that was 2 weeks ago.
Nice. Cheryl, I see Cheryl's still reviewing the list closely. No.
The trees are native, so
Okay. Well, let's see. If nobody reviewed the updated landscaping plan, you probably also didn't review the memorandum, the draft memorandum. So I'm going to review that real quick. Dated March 8th. Okay. I don't have any objections to that. So I'm going to move to accept the memorandum as drafted for S13-430.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 4-4, 1 abstention. And You're off to the races.
Thank you very much, everyone, for all of your time.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, let's see, one more before we get to Weather Bell. 70 Cranberry Road, S23-636.
Let's see. I see Mr. Botero here, so if you have anything to say, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I believe that Andy Simulidis from Land Tech requested that the discussion on the application be tabled to the next meeting. Again, this was an application received at your previous meeting. There was some discussion regarding the applicant's interest in updating the proposed subdivision to show one of the there are two there are 3 points of access, legal access on Cranberry Road, and they would use 2 driveways to get to the collection of three homes, not just one driveway. And so they're working on revising those plans, but haven't had a chance to submit them yet. So Mr. Tomas Botero, if you have a comment, you can.
No
Otherwise-
comments. I appreciate it, everyone's time.
All right.
I'll circle back with Andy as well.
Okay.
Okay. Mike Pascarella, you're up.
Here I am. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being patient with my less than normal work schedule.
So
No
this
problem.
was an application received. I have it in front of me, but it wasn't your last meeting. It was a previous meeting. It's a corrective action application for removal of vegetation and filling and grading in and adjacent to a wetland. I think at the previous meeting, there was a discussion regarding the need to have a survey done so that there could be a site plan developed with some accuracy. And I know, let's see. Mr. Pascarelli, you had sent me a plot plan. I can share my screen. If the commission wishes. This was what you sent
Last night.
evening.
So may I?
Go for it.
Okay. So so I was able to locate the property deed. And these dimensions, the property line, near as I can tell, are fairly accurate. About roughly 160 feet across Weather Bell Drive, down on the sort of diagonal 301 feet down what I'll call the left side, which is actually the right side of the screen. 234 feet, give or take a little bit, across the back, and then 268, almost 269 down the side. It is correct. There are no property records in City Hall. And dating, I mean, as far back as when I'm assuming the property was subdivided back in, well, the house was built in 1966. So there's really nothing in Town Hall to go by. So other than what's on the deed. So that's sort of all I could work off of. And the lines you see are fairly accurate. Measured them out in the rain, which is always fun, to to some degree of accuracy. I would say probably within a foot or two. So you can see the brown line that runs along the back of the house and dips down. That is what should be the 50-foot setback line. The blue line, sort of the previous lawn area. The purple line coming down would be the proposed bed that I'll call it, the planting bed. And Alexis, if you can just zoom out a little bit. The plantings, which I believe are spaced pretty close to every 5 feet apart. The green line was the new lawn, and the yellow line is pretty much the delineation line. One box equals 10 feet. And that's pretty much it. I did speak to one of the landscape suppliers about mountain laurels. They have, and what I'm proposing, I think in my letter, I said 5-gallon mountain laurels. This year they're carrying 3-gallon and 6-gallon. They're not carrying any bag and burlaps, B&Bs, which would be 3 to 4 feet. And that's about all I have at this point.
So just to refresh our memories, we had bunch of fill placed between the house and the trees on the east side of the property, which in this drawing is down. And we had, I'm looking back at what we have online here. We have a soils report from 2023 indicating that the gist of it is that yes, wetland soil was detected. It is sketched out, looks like by hand on a like a GIS document, but there is no actual drawing per se, like an engineer drawing, nor is there confirmation of just how far back the wetland soils extended toward the house, because the soil engineer did not dig down. They basically just stopped where the fill stopped. Is that okay? So Alexis is nodding her head. Mr. Pascarella, does that sound about right to you?
It does. But what the soil scientist said was he had a hard time getting into the ground. I know when I spoke to him the day he came out, he said he couldn't get his auger into the ground. And that would be, I guess, along the yellow line and the green line, because there's a lot of rock and tree root that are there. So he said he took some sort of test boring. So I'm assuming, I don't know how big an auger is. I'm guessing 3-4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches. So a test boring, but even at that, he said he had a difficult time getting penetration. So I don't know how far he got into the ground to do that.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I wasn't here when he came, so it was very difficult. Now,
okay. All right. So I think we're and I'm not trying to speak for anybody. Oh, go ahead, Alexis.
Yeah. No, so I was just going to add regarding the soil delineation. So I did email the soil scientist who is Jay Fain. And I'll just share my screen again. I sent him this PDF and said, hi Jay, I'm in receipt of your delineation report for this property. I wanted to confirm your findings. I know your sketch map is just a sketch, but when the wetland limit on a sketch map is substantially different from flag locations, I always try to confirm. So the, well, I'll just continue to read it. As you know, the property owner received an enforcement order from my office following an unpermitted filling and grading activities in the rear yard. The shallow rear lawn area was extended eastward, further to the rear, following grading and filling. Based on field observations and aerial photos, the rear of the property contains wetlands and a watercourse. During our site inspection in August, skunk cabbage was present right up to the new boulder row at the edge of the lawn. On the sketch map, which is, I'm referring to Mr. Fain's sketch map, the base map has the 2016 topographic contour lines, and your delineation appears to follow a break in the slope. And so this is the same contour lines, and this green line is where Mr. Fain put his wetland line along the toe of slope, as shown in the 2016 topographic map. In the field, however, the flags rather, are all just beyond the new break in slope at the limit of fill, which is this red line. Please see attached map. The green line is the wetland limit based on your sketch. The red line is the wetland limit based on the observed location of the wetland flags. Which line, the red or the green, is the more accurate depiction of the wetland limit line? Did your investigation end at the current break of slope, or did it include sampling under the fill material? Thank you in advance for any clarity. And he wrote back, so that's always kind of a red flag to have the sketch be so different than, you know, what is out there. He wrote back, my investigation reflects current conditions and is basically toe of fill. I did not try to dig through the fill as it was too deep and too stony. Not sure which line is correct, but my flag should be survey located for accurate depiction. Hope that helps. So,
what does that mean, survey located? So does that
So-
mean he's recommending doing a survey in?
yeah,
So
so
you'll
he
be able to
he
connect
doesn't know
those sites.
exactly where his flags are dimensionally compared to the house. He knew that when he was out there, he went along the toe of slope. And so he's saying, well, I thought it was at the toe of slope, but this is the new toe of slope. So there's two things that are important. One is that you don't know where his flagged wetland line is. And then the other is that he did not, it is this, the area in question is this area here. And that's kind of the question of the day. What is under the fill? And is there a wetland under the fill that's between the green line and the red line on the map? Just to clarify.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
How do wetland scientists typically, if something's been filled, find the edge? Do they request to have a small excavator come in, or?
Yeah, so we recently had a property that had a unresolved wetland violation for quite a few years. A new owner has bought it and they're working on a corrective action application. They had to get a small excavator out there to do some test pits. Depending on the depth of the fill, we've had another one down on Witch Lane. One of the soil scientists had a handheld power auger that I've seen used before. But yeah, it is, I mean, we have a small hand auger in our car, and when there are a lot of rocks in the fill, it is difficult to get through with just a hand auger. but it can certainly be done. It just takes more effort.
So if we were to connect the dots here, I think it's really going to take the hiring of an engineer to, one, verify the location of the flags, their exact location on the site, and secondly, to try harder to identify the extent of the wetland soil under the fill. Is that, Alexis?
Yeah, so I think
Reasonable.
that so it would be a land surveyor that would locate the location of Mr. Fain's flags, which are approximately along this red line.
But the value of the location of those flags is actually not that great
It's a little
because
dubious, yeah.
they're based on a sort of lower level investigation.
Right.
So
So
really,
I would recommend that, I think that because of the discrepancy between these two lines, that you, Mr. Pascarella can try to engage Mr. Fain to go back out there and have a small excavator to do a few test holes to help him determine the extent of wetlands under the fill, or, you know, maybe confirm that by coincidence the wetland ends right at the Toa slope. Or the other option for the agency in your review of any application is that third-party review fee, where you charge the applicant an additional fee, and you would then turn around and hire a third-party soil scientist to delineate the wetland.
got it.
Let me ask a quick question here. What is
Mhm.
what would a corrective action, what would it be appropriate corrective action be for this if it was determined the red line was the wetland boundary? To remove the
If the
fill?
wetland ended
to-
here,
Yep,
so then you're looking at we can go back to Mr. Pascarella's, let's see if so the previous lawn, you know, you're still looking at an upland review area of
Right.
50 feet from this line and 100 feet from this line. And so I think it becomes easier if you're outside of the wetland, you're looking at that's really a call for you, the commission. You need to, before you can make a decision, you need to be informed. Are you regulating activities adjacent to a wetland and the removal of a wooded buffer and having that buffer be made into lawn? Or are you reviewing an application where a wetland has been filled and repurposed into lawn? I think those are two different things, and I don't think that you know what they are yet.
agreed. I was just trying to see if the remediation was going to be less of a lift than, you know, further investigation, like if you treated it as if, but I think there would be removal of fill and all of that, right? So,
That's again up to
Yep.
the commission, really, because the wetland regulations themselves aren't outright prohibitive. They don't say you can't fill right up to a wetland. They just say you have to get a permit first. And in order to get a permit, you go back to the considerations for a decision, and you're assessing the impacts of the activity to the wetland and water course. So again, that goes back to
okay.
making sure that you have sufficient information from the applicant for you to make an informed decision.
So we're back to starting with the soil scientist, get a good location of wetland soil, and then linking that to the site plan survey, basically. So we know, and then also the soil scientist and or the surveyor, no, the surveyor wouldn't. Soil scientist would be able to, who would suggest to us what the remediation would be? Would that be another
That would
party?
be
Or
like a professional wetland scientist, yeah.
okay,
But
so
I don't think that you're there yet.
you don't think we're what?
I don't think that you have enough information to come up
Right.
with a mitigation.
Well, I was just trying to think of if it, you know, what is the simplest way for Mr. Pascarella to satisfy us so that we can quit bugging
Right.
him.
So I think that I think the clearest path for the commission would be to require a third-party review, so a scientist. I think that would be the potentially the fastest and clearest. But I think that for I know that Mr. Pascarella is not wanting to spend any additional money, so I think that the best option for him might be to reach out to Mr. Fain to see if Mr. Fain would return to the site. If Mr. Pascarella could hire at the same time someone with a small excavator to do test pits, and I can meet Mr. Fain out at the site and he can evaluate the area under the fill. That might be the cheapest way forward.
Okay. So Mr. Pascarella, so either it sounds like either you can take that on or we can do that for you, but I think it's probably something you want to take on yourself.
It is obviously financial considerations are much. I mean, certainly, I think in my mind anyway, a more fair thing would, go along with the plantings, but that's your call, not mine.
Yeah, we can't quite go there right now.
Yeah,
we need more information.
So, yeah, that would be an option. I mean,
okay.
I could always pull a day or so off of work to be here for that.
And
but
you don't have to be there, but
yeah,
you might want to be.
I want to be here this time. But I should note that what was portrayed to me is that there were no wetlands listed on the deed, as far as I know.
Yeah, and again, that doesn't mean that there aren't wetlands there.
Right, and since the house was built in '66, and really wetland stuff didn't come into play until 1969, I don't know if there's any grandfathering or anything else involved with that. And
well, there would have been if you hadn't done this latest action of the filling and whatnot. So that's
right.
That's what triggers it.
So I did look up research skunk cabbage, and there's 3 ways that gets into the ground. It's a seed based, so there is some water involved. There could be wind and animals, so there's not much there. I mean, being that it's a rocky soil, and getting into the ground is difficult at best. I mean, I'd almost say that Mr. Fain's findings may have been inconclusive because he couldn't get into the ground with all the rocks and tree roots in there. So I don't know if digging test holes will result in the same thing. I mean, certainly I'd prefer not to tear up the yard and go on what I'll call a treasure hunt, but I mean, it's not necessarily my call at this point, but I don't know what's going to be found down there. That's the thing. So,
well, without trying, we don't know, and we can't bless things that are
so
certain.
The way I look at it, and I know, however, is I asked for information and didn't get any.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to. So when you came into our office and asked, when you were looking to purchase the property, are there wetlands? And you even replied to me that you said, quote, when I was in the office and I was told there are wetlands in the back of the property.
Right.
You say I asked for details, but was not provided any maps.
Right.
And so then you proceeded to fill. I don't see how those two
Right, right, what was portrayed to me was there seems to be wetlands in the back half of the property. Yes, you are correct.
Yep.
And I did ask for more detailed information. And I looked on the Norwalk maps, I looked on the state maps, I looked on the federal maps, I looked on the wetlands, I'm sorry, the wildlife and fishery maps. Couldn't find anything. There's nothing on the deed. So I was obviously lost as to
Mhm.
where to go. So woulda, shoulda, coulda, but it's just I'm at a loss.
I think if the soil scientist was hired to determine what the soil is of the area, then it wasn't complete. I mean, to my, I don't know if I'm wrong here, but
And also, like I said in the previous meeting, on the right-hand side of the property, I guess that would be the southeast side. Those flags are back anywhere between, I believe it was 26 and 35 feet from where from the delineation line to the new lawn is. So that's, when I measured, I went right to the flags.
Don't know what else to say other than we'll help dig you out of this as much as we can. That was a pun.
You want to come? You want to come with the shovel?
No, I don't. But yeah, I think that's the direction we've got to head, and when we've got a full picture, I think that'll help us move this thing forward.
Okay, so first step, talk to Mr. Fain and come up with a date and take a few.
Call him right away. So the agency is under statutory timelines to review the application. Right now, a decision. Well, one of the things that they need to determine right now, it's an intermediate corrective action application, and they need to determine whether it stays an intermediate or whether it's significant. And then they need to make a decision or hold a public hearing by their April 18th meeting. And so if they determine that a public hearing is needed, then they need to schedule that public hearing at the next meeting. So I would just encourage you to reach out to Mr. Fain ASAP and see when you can get Mr. Fain and a small excavator out there on a day, Monday through Friday.
do we know how much fill was put?
Good question.
We don't. I know that in the revised narrative, we have a paper copy of, let's see.
When they dig the holes, would they have a sense of how deep they were digging to hit the wetland soil and be able to note that?
Yeah.
And
So
then a calculation could be made on the amount of fill?
definitely the depth of the fill would be more accurately
Would that be a good
determined.
for him to request when they're doing that notations are made when they're doing the excavation?
And that's why I would recommend that that my office know so that we can have a staff person out there. But yes, so all soil layers are classified including eudorthants or fill, and then a soil scientist can determine when there's fill, when there's the topsoil layer, and then when there's the native horizons. Yep.
Okay. Is
All right,
that,
I'll get with you. Sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I said I'll try to reach Mr. Fain tomorrow. And see if I can't schedule something for next week.
Okay.
And we can go from there. Alexis, I just asked, can you send me a copy of that red and green map that you had?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we'll let you go for tonight, Mr. Pascarella. And
Thank you.
And we can extend the timeline, right, Alexis, as long as the
Uh,
applicant gives us permission?
Correct.
Okay,
Now,
so,
and again, all I'm asking is, some fairness and, I'm, as you all know, I'm more than willing to get this corrected and work with the commission.
great. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so just Mr. Fain and an excavator is really all you need at this point.
Right, and then I would continue to encourage you to talk with a surveyor.
So yes, thank you for reminding me. I did talk to a surveyor last week who's familiar with this area. Being that there's no property records anywhere. And he said he was research. Unfortunately, his time frame's not really conducive, but I do have somebody lined up because I know that's going to be several weeks out at this point.
Yep.
I don't know how that fits into the grand plan.
Well, like I said, we can push things back if we need to, but get the wheels rolling.
I'd rather get it done a lot sooner than that. So
Okay.
and like I said, so
okay. All right. Well, we'll move on with the agenda and talk to you again, Mr. Pascarella. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good night.
You too.
Okay, we made it through all of our discussion and or decision, I think. Yeah. Okay, moving on to approval of minutes. I read them and I just think they're fantastic. I'd like to move to approve them.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Breslin,
Well, I kind of, I left, so I have to abstain.
you gonna abstain?
And I'm sorry, who made that motion?
I moved, Cheryl seconded.
Okay, and then I forgot to remind you, there is a bond release reduction request on the agenda.
Oh,
It
right.
was not on your emailed agendas, but it is on mine.
Let's do that now.
Right.
No time like the present.
Hold on, I got so many things open. Sorry, just catching up here. All right. So what's on the agenda is number S21-580, 8 Leslie Lane, Kirsch. Release of bond, which is $2,662 for corrective action replanting of wetland. So this is a 2021 corrective action related bond. You in November 14th, 2023, you actually did receive a request for a bond release, and I showed you photographs of the property at that time, and that you determined was not eligible for release, in part because it was November, I think, and November is a tough time to gauge the vitality of plants. And then in part, I think some of the plants just did not survive. And I'm just going to read second here. Just don't have everything open. My apologies. I just want to read what Ms. Kirchner provided. So I'll read that first. Share screen. Okay, so I'll read this through. This was dropped off, I guess, on February 27th to my office. Dear sirs, in July of 2021, permit 21508 was put in place and approved by the Conservation Commission for corrective action replanting in the wetland area in front of my home at the time, 8 Leslie Lane. As you will see in the included photos, the plants were purchased from a nursery to ensure their continued growth, large cost rather than seeding, and planted by professional gardeners, once again incurring a large expense. However, the plants were thriving and doing well. All work was approved and satisfactory by the commission. Therefore, part of the bond was refunded. In January 2022, my house sold, and in July of the same year, the new owner has applied for permit S22605 for a retaining wall adjacent to the wetlands where reference plantings were placed. Permit was approved and wall built. I've included the file a photo of the area which was taken when the permit for the wall was acquired prior to construction, and the plantings looked well and growing. We can conclude that the construction and materials used to build the wall disturbed and caused the healthy plantings to perish. I've complied above and beyond with the replanting, spent thousands of dollars to complete the project with full approval from the commission. I am now being penalized for something I'm not responsible for. In all fairness, I should be refunded the full balance of the bond that is due to me. Grace Kirchner. And so these, I don't have a color scanner, but these are the plants, but right before they were planted. So these are in the pots at the time that she planted, and then includes a copy of the corrective action application from 2021, and the originally proposed planting plan, the soils report, and our list, and then also includes the application that was made in 2022 by the new owner, Mr. Mead, to build a retaining wall in this area. So this is wetlands on the right side of the screen. This is upland, and there's now a retaining wall here. And so that's the request. And I can go through and find the photos that inspectors took in November of 2023, and the aerial photos and the locational information for you if you like.
Alexis, you said we went through this recently, right? Like not that long ago?
Yes.
And I sort of remember, I think what I remember from it was that, because I recalled it was kind of odd that the bond moved along to, with the previous owner, but does not, who doesn't own the property anymore. How much is still left? You said 2,000 was I don't know if that was the original or
no, the remaining is 2,662. Right. Whenever a property changes hands, we strongly encourage the owner to transfer the bond at the time of the sale. And for whatever reason, they did not do that. So it does put them in a bit of a pickle in that they have a bond posted for plants that they do not own. And so what I would recommend is either we can certainly go back out in the spring to re-inspect Again, that, at the time that they did their inspection, there were definitely some plants, but I'll just show those again real quickly. Some plants, but so this is kind of looking from the driveway out into the wetland. And so these are the sedges, those definitely did well. And then there are some shrubs that are still alive. But then there were a few plants that did not survive. This is the wall. These are the plantings that the new owner did. This is the corrective action planting, kind of all in this area here.
A lot of brown there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, a part of it is just the amount of wood chips. The previous owner did rake out quite a lot of wood chips, but there are definitely, I think it's enough that it's hindered the revegetation.
So our options are to not return the bond and use it for something, right? Use it for replanting or something like that, or return the bond. I mean, we can't
Yeah,
ask
so
them.
that's a whole nother process to actually call the bond and use it. Or to return it, or to pause and then return it. If there are more plants visible in the spring. And then the other option would be for the previous owner to talk to the current owner and to install more of the plants, maybe instead of the ones that have perished, add more of what seems to have done well. But that's, that would be between them. And then you generally don't have applicants talk at your bond release discussions, but Ms. Kirsch is here. So I know she had her hand raised. If that is up to you, the commission. Just wanted to let you know.
What is a reasonable tolerance for, the percentage of plants that we expect to have living out?
Gotcha. So we look for 65 to 70% is kind of the minimum. We try not to advertise that because we don't want people to plant 70% of plants. But so there are a variety of factors when you plant plants. And so some restorations you see larger plants and fewer of them. And then other ones you see a lot of small plugs. And other times you just see seeding. And let me just pull up her planting plan, because in her letter, notes that the planting plan was modified. Let me see. I'd have to, it's not online still. I'd have to, let me go to her.
And just a quick question while you look. The retaining wall that was put in, that was a permitted action, not a corrective action, correct?
Correct. That was a requested permitted action. And so the approved planting plan was, there were a lot of plugs. 1, 2, 3, 5. Like 1,000 plugs if I'm counting right, of a mix. So sensitive fern, native geranium, carex or sedge, blue stem, box, lobelia, cardinal flower, sensitive fern, foam flower. And then there were 32 shrubs. Red osier dogwood, summer sweet, winterberry, and swamp azalea. They could find 15 out of the 32 shrubs. So that was, and then with the plugs, the carex, the sedge did very well. But they had, and again, it was for a lot of the grasses and forbs, the late fall is not the best time to identify them, but they're pretty good with their plants, and they really could not find anything other than the sedge growing. So it was that combination of 15 shrubs and just not seeing a lot of diversity or even just vegetation in the understory.
All right, so just objectively speaking, it doesn't sound like staff is overwhelmed with the success of the planting. It's a sticky situation because, you know, the person who wants the bond back doesn't own the property anymore and has no access to it, theoretically. But she also wants her money back. One solution to make the agency whole would be to use that money instead of giving it back to be the sort of intermediary, I guess, and have to work with the new owner to get some new plants in there that will hopefully take better than what they tried 2 years ago. Does that clearly describe what we're dealing with?
Yes.
All right, commissioners, thoughts?
I think that using the bond toward, you know, a portion of the bond towards making sure that we have the bare minimum of the 65 to 70% is something worth pursuing.
Alexis, do you think we can get it done with the amount of the bond?
I mean, you could do some, yeah. I mean, that's not,
It's not out of question.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and spring is the right time to plant, theoretically, but if we can get somebody. Okay, is that something the agency is willing to take on? Your office, I'm sorry, is willing to take on, Alexis?
okay, so, yeah, so if you're, if I guess I would recommend that the agency, table any decision on the release of the bond tonight, unless you want to say, you know, no, but,
Right.
punt it to the, mid to late May and allow us to reinspect to see if there is you know, a higher density of plants out there. And then if it isn't, then we can connect back to Miss Kirsch and I'd say give her the opportunity to come up with a solution with the property owner. And if
Okay.
no solution is found, then there is a process for calling the bond and basically taking the bond to do the planting.
Okay. So we will direct staff to coordinate a site visit here in the next few, weeks by a certain date? Do we need to define that, or you got it, right?
Well, no, I would wait until the plants, part of the problem when the inspectors went out, because I think that a lot of, if there were any additional, you know, of the plugs there, they had kind of gone past, or they were harder to identify. So I would have us go inspect in mid-May to see if we can find additional plants.
Okay. So mid-May, staff goes out to reassess, you know, how many plants are actually making it. And then we can decide what to do about whether we release the bond or we give the, not bond holder, or the applicant an opportunity to remedy the situation, or we remedy it ourselves. Does that sound about right? Anybody?
I'm good with that.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so Miss Kirsch, we will reinspect in mid-May. I am currently not in the office, but I will be back next Wednesday. And I will give you a call next Wednesday to discuss if you have any questions.
Okay. I think we're gonna keep things simple tonight and assume she heard that, and if she doesn't, she can reach out to Alexis. It sounds like the email is the best bet since she's not in the office right now. Okay. Great, then I say we move on with the agenda. Okay, everyone?
Yep.
Alexis, you're just taking notes, or are you waiting, or should I wait on you?
Sorry. Just
We're okay?
Yep.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, so we already approved minutes. Conservation initiatives. Alexis, did I miss it if you resent the language for the? No, don't worry about it. Nope.
Shoot.
Let's just
No,
apply
you
what we
didn't.
discussed last week or last meeting to this meeting.
Okay. So you had previously talked about amending your regulations to increase the upland review area from wetlands to 100 feet. So you have a consistent 100-foot review area from both wetlands and watercourses. A lot of other municipalities use the wider upland review area or area of jurisdiction than 50 feet. And so that was brought up, I think, by Miss Knight. And if you wanted to amend your agenda, amend your regulations, there's a process that you would take to formally announce the proposed amendment. And then there's a referral to DEEP and a required public hearing and some other stuff. But it sounded like maybe you wanted some more discussion. In addition to the suggested amendment of the 100 foot from wetlands that Miss Knight had suggested, see if I can find what I had sent you a while ago. I had also suggested some minor amendments that are either fix typos or render the local regulations more consistent with the state model regulations.
So just a quick question, Alexis, when you say that
Yes.
other towns and other municipalities have a similar,
Yeah.
what towns are what is it, a majority?
Oh.
Is it cities? Like Stamford, for example, do we know?
Let me see if I can find.
Not to put you on the spot there. The reason I
Yeah.
ask is only purely because of a density and how many residences this would affect versus a town like, well, Westport. I mean, everything's getting more crowded, so it's really, I don't know how relevant it is, but you know what I'm saying.
So I think it has looking up this data. Hold on, I know.
To be fair, I just asked you.
So I
like,
know that
where-
CACIWC, which is the Connecticut Association of Conservation and Inland Wetland Commissions, a few years ago came out with a position statement supporting inclusion of a 100-foot upland review area for wetlands as a minimum to assess impacts to wetlands or watercourses. And I think that they had, I'm looking, it's a very good question. Now they just say, I'll keep looking. I know there is a list, but they say many communities in Connecticut have extended the upland review area to 100 feet. Middletown, Bristol, Cromwell, Middlefield, Glastonbury, and Rocky Hill. Other municipalities have adopted larger regulatory areas around specific water bodies. New Milford and Sherman, for example, established a 200-foot regulatory area around Candlewood Lake. Killingworth developed a 500-foot regulatory review area around vernal pools, and Vernon set a 200-foot upland review area along two rivers. This does not have the list. I know that Wilton previously was 100 from watercourses and 50 from wetlands, and 3 or 4 years ago changed it to both be 100. Different towns. So the way that Connecticut works, 169 different municipalities and 169 different ways to administer the wetland regulations, basically. Each town is different.
Mhm.
I think that one of the keys is understanding the why. I don't think when you think about the how land use impacts wetlands or watercourses, I think watercourses are very obvious. You know, they're standing water and they're right there. And so it's almost easier to be protective of them, but land disturbances adjacent to wetlands have just as much, if not more, impact in a lot of ways. I think the headwater wetlands, kind of where your streams start, those are actually some of your most sensitive resources, and are much more prone to being negatively impacted than, say, the lower half of the Norwalk River in Norwalk. So I think it does make sense. And I'm still searching for what I know that there is a report with all the towns.
I don't disagree with it in a perfect right. Like I have no actual issue, and I think it's a step in the right direction for things. I just want to be cognizant of what the reality of that would be for like workload of applications or workload of anything, right? Like I don't really have data on it, so I couldn't say, but like the amount of wetland, if you double, I don't know.
I don't know if it would be significantly more work. I will tell you that. So back in for a long time, Norwalk did not regulate upland review areas. The regulations just talked about wetlands and watercourses. And then at some point in the I want to say 99, I think it was, the regulations were amended to include an upland review area. that
Mhm.
was just, that we regulate areas adjacent to wetlands and watercourses. Not a defined wetland, not a defined upland review area. And then in 2005, the wetlands regs were amended to clarify that, yes, we have an upland review area. It is 50 feet from wetlands and 100 feet from watercourses. And one of the reasons that the 50 feet was chosen was, one, that's what Wilton was doing. And then also the hope that 50 feet was not so much like 100 feet, that maybe people would avoid getting a wetland permit. But if they stayed 50 feet away from the wetland, they could still develop. And in my 22 years here, I think I've seen one one proposal for a new house that was, 49 feet or 51 feet from a wetland. But that was part of the idea that, if we don't have it so big, then maybe people will be encouraged to stay out of that. But I don't think that really works. Ed, I know that you were here then. I don't know if you have any memories of 2005. It's a while ago.
Yeah, I kind of remember that, but I'd probably still keep it at 50. I don't think we want to narrow it down any.
You don't want to narrow it down.
No, I'd still keep it at 50.
Okay. I'm kind of impartial on the whole topic. All right. Well, do we want to?
So it sounds like you're maybe not ready to propose an amendment.
Not right now.
And I still have not found the handy chart, but I will continue to look for it. And maybe it sounds like there needs to be more discussion when Commissioner Knight, who I believe is the one that brought it up, could articulate, her thoughts, and give her the opportunity to convince you.
I think it's just, it would be great. I don't think we would have this data, but in case there's a magical GIS layer that can do this, like the difference in number of, I think it's hard to make this decision or have this conversation without understanding the impact it would have on, like, how many parcels are impacted with one versus the other, right? Like, I don't know if that's just me, but like,
we can do that.
If we're talking about, a lot of Norwalk homes, mine included, I think 50 feet is like the length of my entire. So, if there was a wetland, it's would affect, 3 houses around me, 4 houses, right? So expanding to 100 feet, that's sort of my concern. And without that, I feel like, I don't know, sure, in a perfect world, great, let's do it. But in a realistic world, I don't know how bad that would, I don't know.
Right. And so that would trigger review potentially, but not necessarily a permit. So your wetland regulations again are based on activities. And so what are the activities? You're regulating activities that have the potential to impact wetlands or watercourses. And so not on wetland, the upland review areas. So it's unlike zoning where it's zoning, has these property lines and then these setback lines. And these are not setback lines. They're areas of jurisdictional review. And so in our office, we have, and Amelia does nearly all of these now. She reviews all the zoning permits that move through our office for wetland permit need. And if say that there is a just because something is happening within an upland review area, if there's no way for it to impact the wetland, we don't require a permit, even if it's within the upland review area. So say if someone wanted
Right.
to, you know, I don't know, install a generator on an existing lawn area, it's within that upland review area, but we don't require a permit because they really would have to work hard to impact the wetland.
Right, but I think I'm just thinking of like drainage, anybody digging or doing anything with drainage and, you know, especially like anything in that would qualify, right? Like, so if it was
Yes.
in 100 feet rather than,
Right.
okay.
Generally, every once in a while, no. But yes.
Yeah, okay. And I'm not saying the answer is wrong to be 100 feet. I think I would feel more comfortable knowing what that really looks like. At least that's my opinion. I'm only one
Absolutely.
person here.
So we can certainly run those numbers.
So there
with,
is a magical
James.
GIS layer. That's great to know.
Yeah, so we do have, so what we have is like it won't be completely tight because not all the wetlands
are
have been delineated.
Right.
But for the known wetlands and the estimated wetlands, we can
Okay.
we can come up with that.
I mean, am I the only one who feels this? I don't want to make extra work for anyone. Does anybody else have an?
That's actually the direction I'm leaning, is
Okay.
like, you know, yes.
I'm trying to ride the line between like, let's do the best we can and practicality, like in the you know, the ideal and the practical. That's what I'm trying to
Balance.
Yep.
Yep, I hear you. I'm with you.
Well, I still haven't found the publication that has the comparison of the upland review areas, but I will send you, there's this fascinating investigation of inland wetland commission practices in Connecticut that was done by Westcog. And they've got all sorts of metrics, including time spent in public meetings.
Oh God, no, I don't know if I want to.
Application events, violation events, commission time. This is fascinating.
This is done for some sort of mental health
Violations. And it's mostly talking about like combined commissions like yourself. Kind of the this is actually, I'll send this to you. Fascinating.
That's cool.
But I'll continue to look for so we'll do an analysis of parcels impacted, and then I'll continue to look for a comparison of adjacent towns.
That would be great. If we have those details, we can have a, you know.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, that's it for me.
Okay. Would you like to add any comments on top of that? Any other?
No.
No. Okay. Commissioners? Report of the commission chair is that I'm tired. My allergies are acting up. But I'm glad that today was warm and sunny. That's my report.
Excellent. Time to get someone to bed over there, huh?
I think so.
Is he still playing soccer? That's what I
No,
mean.
Dashiell went home. No. He's.
Oh, he did.
Yep.
I didn't mean you that time, but I guess.
I thought you did actually.
No,
yeah,
I see that now. I guess both apply.
No, I thought you're spot on. Okay. Well, any other commissioners want to add anything, or should we all get on with our evenings?
I'm good. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Sweet. Anybody want to discuss it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.